time when I was alone.
Ruth B burst onto the music scene 6 years ago when Lost Boy became a worldwide hit.
Was the man in the moon.
A song that famously and improbably started with short videos shot in her Edmonton home, released on the internet.
I am a lost boy from Neverland.
We've been following her career from that first song. Tell us the story behind those 6 seconds.
Thank you. Well, actually, I was watching a TV show called Once Upon a Time, and it was all about Peter Pan.
Ruth B! To the Junos 4 years ago when she won Breakthrough Artist of the Year.
Thank you!
And now the release of her new album.
What's the situation?
During this pandemic break, she's back where she started, in Edmonton. Ruth, it's so nice to see you again.
So nice to see you too. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Now, last time we were at a music theater in Vancouver. Now you're back in your parents' basement in Edmonton. What's the pandemic been like for you?
You know, it's been quite a time, definitely. I was living in New York prior to the pandemic, so it's definitely been interesting to kind of be back home with the family. I think at first I was definitely just overwhelmed with everything, but I think in a way it's kind of been really nice just to reconnect and just be here and kind of, you know, feel at home again.
And as a musician, what kind of impact has it had on you?
Yeah, I think at first, again, it was overwhelming to go from these studios with different producers and writers in New York to kind of back to my roots, I guess, like back in my room with my keyboard. But I think in a way that's made making the music just that much more fulfilling again, to once again be able to connect with who I was as a writer when I first started and make music the way I really love to make it. It's been really nice.
And here we are getting, we hope, towards the end of the pandemic, hopefully getting back to some kind of version of normal. And as part of that, you have a new music video out.
I wanna let go, but it's so complicated, baby. All I'm saying is, what's the situation?
How did you manage to shoot that during the pandemic?
Music video shooting during a pandemic is definitely different. My director was out in LA and she was via Zoom and kind of directing me through they put like a little megaphone next to the laptop where she was on. So it was definitely an experience, but I think it just made it that much more gratifying to see the process come through because we worked so much harder and it was such a tricky process, but ultimately it turned out beautiful. And it was also really cool to be able to shoot a music video in my hometown for sure.
Normally I tell people, not that you need any advice from me, but normally I tell people do not look at the comments on social media or YouTube. But I was looking through the comments for that video and they are fantastic. I mean, the only debate on there is some people who say you're underrated and other people who are angry that people are still saying you're underrated. And there was one I saw where somebody said, I think I can remember this, lights off, headphones on, eyes closed, what a paradise, which I think kind of captures the song. Did you go through the comments yourself?
Yeah, you know, I love reading feedback from fans. I think it makes it feel realer when you can see what people are thinking about you and thinking about the music. And yeah, I'm always so grateful for the support and people happen to be really nice in terms, especially with that video and that song. I think I may have even seen that comment in particular that you mentioned. But yeah, it's always amazing when people are super supportive of something that you've poured your heart into.
So most of the people watching this have not heard any of your new album yet. What does that album represent? In what way does it reflect you or the times?
This album does such a perfect job of capturing me as a writer and as an artist right now.
And I think it's kind of funny how we always end up running back to each other like we love to suffer.
I started it about 4 years ago and traveled a lot while I was writing it. I was in LA and New York and then ended up finishing it again in my parents' house, kind of where my roots are. And I think the main lesson that I learned over the past year especially is just how important like the little things are and the little moments that we might take for granted in everyday life. And that's why I named the album after the last song I wrote for it, which is Moments in Between. And it's just, yeah, just realizing how significant the insignificant things of every day are for me.
The toughest thing in the music business is breaking through. And you did it in the most original way, you know, the Vine videos and a pretty significant song, Lost Boys. But the second toughest thing in this business is that second breakthrough, that second single. And it's been a long time between albums. Do you feel pressure?
Yeah, pressure is inevitable. I think for me, in terms of first album versus second album, my first album to me felt like the most pressure ever because it was following right after Lost Boys. So, and I was so new to the scene. It was a lot. And I think with this one, I wanted to make a point to really take my time to live life and then gather the songs that came out of that. Because for me, the most important thing is the authenticity and the realness of the songs, because if people can't connect to it, then it doesn't really matter. When making art specifically, you just kind of have to be in the moment.
And speaking of in the moment, we're still in the pandemic moment, so you're doing a virtual tour. When are you actually going to be out on a stage in front of real people again?
I'm so looking forward to the day. I think definitely the light at the end of the tunnel is becoming more clear now, so I'm definitely excited. I think, yeah, one thing this pandemic, another on top of all the many things I've learned, is just how much I love touring and how much I miss that real life connection. And I think when you're physically on the road, it can be so grueling and so tiring. But like now I'm just like, I miss being so exhausted at the end of a show and just running to my hotel and passing out with the band. Like all those little things, I miss them so much. So I'm definitely super excited for that day.
Well, it is really exciting to talk to you. And as I say, hopefully the next time it'll be in person. Thanks, Ruth.
Definitely. Thank you, Ian.